They called Earth's apex a joke, until the human played Jungle Surveillance Files. Part 1. The space station called Verdant Accord floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was neutral ground, a place where species that hated each other could meet without fighting. Today, it held the Galactic Council's summit, where hundreds of alien races gathered to show off the deadliest creatures from their home planets. Ambassador stood at the back of the massive amphitheater. She was the only human in a room filled with 300 different species. Some had scales. Some had crystalline bodies that reflected light like diamonds. Some floated in anti-gravity pods filled with toxic gases. All of them were here for the same reason, to prove that their world had produced the most dangerous life forms in the galaxy. Watched as species after species walked to the central platform and displayed holographic images of their apex predators. The word apex meant the top of the food chain, the ultimate killer, the creature that nothing else could hunt. The went first. They were serpent-like beings, each one as thick as a tree trunk and covered in scales that shifted colors. Their ambassador, a massive creature named Eth, proudly displayed their ravager serpent. The hologram showed a beast 12 meters long, with armor plates covering its body and a mouth that dripped acid strong enough to melt steel. The audience made sounds of approval. This was a proper apex predator. Next came the X. They were creatures that shared one mind across thousands of bodies. They showed their stalkers, pack hunters that could disrupt the nervous systems of their prey with natural electromagnetic fields. The prey would fall paralyzed, and the stalkers would feed while it was still alive. More sounds of respect from the crowd. The displayed a creature that existed partly in another dimension. The showed something that hunted using sound waves that could rupture internal organs. The presented a predator that could survive in the vacuum of space itself. Each presentation was met with appreciation. Each world proved its worth through the monsters it had created. Notice that several aliens kept looking at her and making sounds that the translator rendered as quiet laughter. She knew what was coming. Humans had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago, and their reputation was not impressive. Other species called them soft skins and endurance walkers. The jokes were not kind. Finally, the Galactic Registry announced that it was Earth's turn. The laughter became louder, not even hidden anymore. Walked to the central platform with slow, measured steps. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, and none of them were friendly. She activated the holographic display and showed her first image. A Bengal tiger appeared above the platform. It was a beautiful animal, orange and black, with muscles built for explosive power. It weighed about 250 kilograms and could kill prey many times its size. Silence. Then showed a great white shark, 6 meters of pure hunting instinct, with rows of teeth designed to tear through flesh and bone. More silence. Then a crocodile, an ancient design, unchanged for millions of years because it was already perfect. A mouth that could crush bone, a body that could lurk unseen in murky water. The silence broke. Someone made a sound like breaking glass, and the translator turned it into pure mockery. It came from High Taxonomist, the being in charge of classifying all life in the known galaxy. He was made of living crystal, his body shifting through colors as he expressed his emotions. Right now, those colors showed amusement and contempt. "These are your apex predators?" asked. His voice echoed through the amphitheater. No venom glands, no natural armor, no projectile capabilities. The shark cannot even survive outside water. He paused, and the colors in his crystalline body shifted to something like pity. "Your world's evolutionary pressures must have been quite gentle, Ambassador." The laughter spread like a wave. 300 species, all finding common ground in their amusement at the pathetic humans, heard the making hissing sounds of contempt. She saw the X clicking their mandibles in mockery. Even the species that had no faces seemed to radiate amusement. A delegate spoke up. Perhaps Earth should be reclassified. We call it a marginal Category 3, but perhaps even that is too generous. These creatures you show us, they would not survive one rotation on a true. More laughter, more agreement. Stood perfectly still through all of it. Her face showed nothing. Her body was relaxed, her hands clasped behind her back. She had been a diplomat for 20 years, and she had learned to control her reactions completely. But inside, she was waiting. She was waiting for them to finish laughing. Because she knew something they did not. When the mockery finally began to die down, spoke. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. With respect, High Taxonomist, you have made an error in your query to Earth's biological registry. His crystalline body flickered with annoyance. Oh, and what error would that be, Ambassador? You asked for our apex predators. His words hung in the air. The tiger, the shark, the crocodile, these are all magnificent creatures. They are perfect killing machines, shaped by millions of years of evolution. And yet clearly inferior to proper apex species, interrupted. I agree, said. That caused confusion. The aliens looked at each other, uncertain. You agree? Evie asked, his serpentine body coiling with suspicion. Completely, nodded. These creatures are not the top of Earth's food chain. They never were. That is the error in your query, High Taxonomist. You asked me to show Earth's apex predators, and I did, but you should have asked a different question. The amphitheater was quiet now, not mocking silence but confused silence. What question should we have asked? Demanded. His expression did not change. Her voice remained calm, almost conversational, but something in her eyes shifted, something cold and patient. You should have asked what hunts them. She tapped her chest with one finger. The answer is us, humans. We have been hunting, trapping, and killing every apex predator on our planet for over 200,000 years. These beautiful, deadly creatures you just laughed at. She paused and let the silence stretch. They are not our competitors, they are our prey. The amphitheater had gone completely still. Smiled, and there was no warmth in it at all. Now, would you like to see what that looks like? They called Earth's apex a joke, until the human played jungle surveillance files. Part 2. The silence in the amphitheater was complete. 300 species stared at the small human woman standing on the central platform. Just moments ago, they had been laughing at her world's predators. Now they were not sure what to feel. High Taxonomist was the first to recover. His crystalline body shifted through colors of irritation and disbelief. Explain yourself, human. You claim that your species, with no natural weapons, hunts creatures like those you displayed. This is absurd. Remained calm, she had expected this reaction. I understand your confusion, High Taxonomist. When we first made contact with the galactic community, your scientists studied our physiology. They concluded that humans were poorly designed for combat. No claws, no fangs, no armor plating, thin skin that tears easily. We cannot run particularly fast. We cannot see in darkness. We have no venom, no natural weapons of any kind. Exactly, said. By every metric, humans should be prey animals. Your continued survival is somewhat puzzling to our biologists. It puzzled us too for a long time, admitted. We spent thousands of years wondering why we were so different from other predators on our world, why we lacked the obvious advantages that made them successful hunters. She paused. Then we realized something. We were asking the wrong question. Ambassador Eth of the leaned forward, his serpentine body coiled with skepticism, but also with growing interest. What was the right question? We kept asking why we lacked natural weapons. The right question was, why did we not need them? Turned to face the full assembly. Every other predator on Earth evolved claws and fangs and venom because they needed those things to survive. We did not evolve them because we found something better. She held up her hands, spreading her fingers. These are our weapons, not because they are strong or sharp. They are neither, but they can hold tools. They can grip rocks and sticks and bones. They can shape those things into weapons far more deadly than any claw. A ex-delegate clicked its mandibles. Tool use is not unique. Many species use tools. True, agreed. But how many species combine tool use with pack coordination, long-range communication, and the ability to track prey across any terrain for days without rest? Silence. That is what makes humans different, continued. We are not strong, but we work together and share our strength. We are not fast, but we never stop moving. We are not armored, but we make armor from the skins of animals we kill. We are not venomous, but we learn to poison our weapons with the venom of other creatures. She gestured to the holographic tiger still floating above the platform. This animal is stronger than any human, faster than any human. Its senses are sharper, its reflexes quicker. In a direct fight, it would kill a human easily. Then how do you claim to hunt them? Demanded. Because we do not fight directly. We do not fight fair. We never have. His voice was still calm, but there was something harder in it now. Humans learned very early that fair fights are for animals that can afford to lose. We could not afford to lose, so we became something else entirely. She requested access to the Council's archival system. I would like to show this assembly some footage from Earth. Surveillance recordings from our wilderness preserves. I want you to see what happens when a human enters a jungle where tigers hunt. High taxonomist made a dismissive gesture with one crystalline appendage. If you wish to further humiliate yourself, permission is granted. Access whatever files you require. Did not react to the insult. She simply nodded and connected her neural interface to the display system. I am accessing records from the mangrove preserve. This is a region in Bengal on Earth where the largest population of wild tigers still lives. The footage is from an anti-poaching patrol. Ranger designation, Corporal, date, October 14, 2089. The holographic display changed. The clean, scientific images disappeared. In their place came raw footage from a body-mounted camera. The view showed dense vegetation, twisted mangrove roots rising from murky water, and oppressive humidity that made the air itself seem thick. The sound of insects filled the audio channel. The camera moved forward as Corporal pushed through the undergrowth. She was a small woman, smaller even than Ambassador. She carried a rifle on her back and a machete in her hand. She was alone. "The is one of the most dangerous places on Earth," narrated. "The tigers there have learned to hunt humans. They do not fear us the way tigers in other regions do. They actively stalk patrols, waiting for opportunities to attack." On the footage, Corporal suddenly stopped moving. Her hand went up in a signal, even though no one was there to see it. Old habits. Then she turned very slowly and looked to her left. The camera caught a flash of orange through the green vegetation. Stripes. A massive body, low to the ground, moving parallel to her path. Ranger knew she was being followed, said quietly. The tiger had been tracking her for approximately 20 minutes. It was waiting for the right moment to attack. The alien audience was completely focused now. Many had never seen actual predator-prey interaction like this. Their worlds had apex predators, yes, but those creatures did not normally hunt sentient beings. "What does she do?" Ani delegate asked. Its form was mostly gaseous, contained in a specialized suit. "Does she call for help? Does she flee?" Watch said. On the screen, Corporal did something that made no sense to anyone watching. She turned to face the tiger directly. She stood up as tall as she could, spreading her arms wide. And then she started walking toward it. The amphitheater erupted in confusion. Voices overlapped as translators struggled to keep up. She approaches the predator. This is suicide. Is this a death recording? Why does she not run? Any prey animal would run. High taxonomist's crystalline body was flickering rapidly through colors that had no translation. This makes no sense. That creature could close the distance in seconds. She is walking into her own death. shook her head slowly. No, she is walking into a confrontation that happened 100,000 years ago and has been happening every day since. Watch the tiger, watch its reaction. On the footage, Corporal was shouting now. The words were in Bengali, but the meaning was clear. She was screaming threats. She was waving her machete. She was stomping her feet and making herself as large and loud as possible. The tiger, 220 kilograms of pure predatory power, stopped moving forward. Its ears went flat against its skull. It began to back away. "Impossible," Ambassador Eth whispered. "That creature could kill her in seconds. Why does it retreat?" His answer was soft, almost gentle, "Because it remembers." She paused the footage at the moment when the tiger turned to look back at the advancing human. The frame captured something in the great cat's amber eyes. Fear. "Every tiger on Earth carries genetic memory," explained. "Not specific memories, but instincts passed down through thousands of generations. Somewhere in that animal's ancestry, its predecessors encountered humans. They attacked, they killed, and then something terrible happened." She let the silence stretch before continuing. "The humans came back, not alone, in groups, with fire, with weapons, with a patience that the tiger's ancestors could not understand. They did not just kill the tiger that attacked. They hunted its entire family. They burned the jungle. They did not stop until every tiger in the area learned one simple lesson." His voice dropped lower. "Attacking a human is the last mistake you will ever make." They called Earth's apex a joke, until the human played jungle surveillance files. Part 3. The footage continued playing. Every being in the amphitheater watched in complete silence as Corporal chased the tiger through the mangrove forest, not running, walking, shouting, waving her arms. The massive predator kept looking back over its shoulder, and each time it did, it moved faster. The human walked faster too. For 300 meters, this strange pursuit continued. A creature that could sprint at 65 kilometers per hour was retreating from an animal that could barely manage 15, and it was retreating in fear. Finally, the tiger disappeared into the deeper jungle. Corporal stood watching the undergrowth for a long moment, her breath heavy from the effort but her posture still tall and aggressive. Then she turned and continued her patrol as if nothing unusual had happened. Paused the footage. That tiger will not return to this area for many weeks. It has learned that this territory belongs to the humans. Its instincts tell it that challenging us is not worth the risk. High taxonomist's crystalline form had gone very still. The colors that usually shifted through his body had settled into something close to gray. "You are saying that Earth's apex predators have been conditioned, trained to fear humans over thousands of generations." "Over hundreds of thousands of generations," corrected. "The conditioning began long before we had language to describe it, long before we built cities or invented writing. The first humans who figured out how to hunt in groups passed that knowledge to their children. The children passed it to their children, and every generation of predators that failed to learn fear was killed." She brought up a new display showing a map of Earth with overlay data. "When humans first spread across our planet, we shared it with many large predators. Saber-toothed cats, giant bears, massive wolves, predators that made the modern tiger look small." She paused. "They are all gone now." "Extinct?" a delegate asked. "Hunted to extinction by us." His voice was matter-of-fact. "Not because we were stronger or faster. We were neither. But we were patient and we worked together, and we never forgot which animals had killed our family members." She pulled up more footage. This time it was older, reconstructed from multiple drone cameras and satellite imaging. The location was Africa, in a region of dry grassland and scattered trees. "This is footage of a traditional hunt," explained. "The Sand people of the desert. They have been hunting this way for at least 40,000 years, perhaps longer." The display showed two human figures standing at the edge of a dry riverbed. They were lean and muscular, wearing very little clothing. Each one carried a simple spear and a water container made from an animal's stomach. Nothing else. In the distance, a herd of kudu grazed on dry grass. Kudu were large antelopes, nearly 300 kilograms each, with long spiral horns and powerful legs built for running. One of the hunters pointed at a specific animal in the herd. The other nodded. Then, without any dramatic preparation, they began to jog toward it. The kudu herd saw them coming and bolted. Within seconds, the antelopes were out of sight, running at full speed across the savanna. The humans kept jogging. "The kudu can run much faster than humans," narrated. "It will outpace them easily, but watch what happens next." The footage accelerated, compressing hours into minutes. The two hunters followed the tracks of their chosen kudu. They were not running fast, just maintaining a steady pace. The sun rose higher in the sky. The temperature climbed. The kudu had stopped to rest in the shade of a tree. Its sides heaved as it tried to cool down. Then it saw the hunters appear on the horizon, still jogging, still coming. The kudu ran again. This pattern repeated. Run, rest, see the humans, run again, rest, see the humans, run. "Most predators on Earth are ambush hunters," explained. "They rely on short bursts of speed to catch prey. If they miss, they give up and try again later. The kudu's instincts are designed for that kind of predator. Rest when you can, run when threatened, and the danger will eventually lose interest." On the screen, the kudu was beginning to stumble. It had been running for hours. The human hunters were still coming, their pace unchanged. Humans are different. We do not rely on speed. We rely on endurance. Our bodies can regulate temperature through sweating, a very rare adaptation. Most animals cool down by panting, but panting requires stopping. We can cool ourselves while running. The kudu collapsed. Its legs gave out beneath it. Its tongue hung from its mouth, and its eyes rolled with exhaustion and heat. It had run itself to death trying to escape predators that simply refused to stop. The two hunters walked up to the fallen animal. Walked, not ran. They had been jogging for nearly 8 hours, but they were still moving, still hunting. One of them ended the kudu's suffering with a single spear thrust. The amphitheater was completely silent. Let that silence stretch before speaking again. This is what humans evolved to do. We cannot outrun our prey. We do not need to. We simply follow it until its heart gives out from exhaustion, until its muscles fill with acid, until its body temperature rises past what it can survive. She looked around at the assembled aliens. Many of them came from worlds where predators were defined by strength, speed, venom, or natural weapons. The concept of killing something by simply refusing to let it rest was completely foreign to them. "Your apex predators are ambush hunters," continued. "They strike quickly and either succeed or fail. Our hunting method has a different name, persistence predation, and it has a near-perfect success rate because no animal on Earth evolved a defense against something that never stops following." A Ani delegate spoke, its gaseous form swirling inside its containment suit. "This is disturbing. You are describing a form of psychological warfare against prey animals." "Yes," agreed. "That is exactly what it is. Before we invented weapons, before we learned to use fire, we killed our prey by making them run until they died. The prey did not understand what was happening. Every predator they knew either caught them or gave up. These strange two-legged creatures did neither." She pulled up one more piece of data, a chart showing the decline of large predator populations on Earth over time. When humans developed better tools, we became more efficient. When we developed language, we could share information about which animals were dangerous and where they lived. When we developed writing, we could keep records that lasted generations. A bear might kill a human in one valley, and 50 years later, humans from a distant village would arrive with weapons and intent. His voice remained calm, almost gentle. "We are not strong, we are not fast, we are not armored or venomous, but we remember, we communicate, we cooperate, and we never ever stop." High Taxonomist finally spoke. His voice was quieter now, the contempt completely gone. "Ambassador, in all my years of classifying species, I have never encountered anything quite like what you are describing." "No," agreed. "You probably have not, because most species either develop natural weapons or remain prey. We did something different. We turned our weaknesses into advantages. We made tools to replace claws. We made clothing to replace fur. We made shelters to replace caves. And we made fear to replace venom." She smiled, and again there was no warmth in it. "The predators of Earth did not learn to fear us because we were dangerous in the moment. They learned to fear us because attacking a human meant that humans would come for them. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually, inevitably, we would track them across any distance. We would hunt them through any terrain. We would not stop until the threat was eliminated." She looked directly at High Taxonomist. "That is what an apex predator looks like on Earth, not the biggest or the strongest, the most patient, the most persistent, the most unwilling to quit." They called Earth's apex a joke, until the human played jungle surveillance files. Part 4. The amphitheater had changed. When Ambassador had first stepped onto the central platform, 300 species had watched her with amusement and contempt. Now those same species watched her with something very different in their eyes. Fear was part of it, but there was also a growing sense of unease, as if they were only now realizing that they had been sharing the galaxy with something they did not fully understand. A delegate from the collective raised one of its many limbs. There were silicon-based life forms, their bodies made of interlocking crystal structures. They had no biological fear responses, no instincts tied to predator-prey relationships, and yet even they seemed disturbed. "Ambassador, the hunting methods you have described are effective against animals on your world, but surely they would not work against intelligent species, against beings who can reason, plan, and adapt." Considered the question carefully. "You are asking if humans would hunt other intelligent beings the same way we hunted animals." "Yes, it seems relevant, given that we now share space with your species." "It is very relevant," nodded slowly. "The answer is complicated. Humans developed ethics and morality as we became more sophisticated. We created rules about who we could and could not kill. We learned to see other beings as people rather than prey." She paused. "But those rules are cultural. They are learned, not instinctive. The hunting instinct itself never went away. We just learned to control it." She pulled up new footage on the display. This was different from the jungle surveillance or the persistence hunt. It was historical footage, reconstructed from old recordings and enhanced by modern technology. "This is footage from a conflict on Earth, a war that happened over 150 years ago. I am showing it to you not to glorify violence, but to answer your question honestly." The display showed a landscape of mud and broken trees, trenches cut through the earth in long, winding lines. Human soldiers moved through the devastation, their bodies covered in primitive armor, their hands gripping weapons that looked crude by modern standards. In this conflict, two groups of humans fought each other for years over territory and resources. Millions died, but what I want you to notice is not the violence itself. I want you to notice how it was conducted. The footage showed soldiers waiting in trenches for days without rest, showed supply lines stretching for hundreds of kilometers, showed factories working constantly to produce weapons and equipment. "This war lasted 4 years," said. 4 years of constant fighting. 4 years of humans killing each other with the same persistence we used to hunt animals, the same patience, the same refusal to quit." She let that sink in before continuing. "Some of your species fight wars, but when you fight until one side gains advantage, and then you negotiate. You recognize when a conflict is too costly to continue. You calculate odds and withdraw when victory becomes unlikely. His voice dropped slightly. Humans do not always do this. When we commit to a fight, we often commit completely. We have a concept called total war where an entire society dedicates itself to conflict. Every resource, every person, every thought, all focused on one goal, victory, regardless of cost. The delegate's crystalline body made a sound like grinding rocks. That is, inefficient, irrational. Yes, it is, agreed. And it is also terrifying to face, because an enemy who calculates costs can be deterred. An enemy who refuses to calculate cannot. High Taxonomist spoke. Are you saying that humans would apply persistence hunting tactics to war with other species? I am saying that the same traits that make us effective hunters also make us effective at conflict: patience, endurance, communication, cooperation, the willingness to suffer in pursuit of a goal. Met his crystalline gaze directly. These are not just hunting traits, they are human traits, they apply to everything we do. She pulled up another set of images. These were not violent. They showed humans building things, enormous structures, machines, cities. When humans decided to reach our moon, we dedicated an entire generation to the task. Thousands of our best minds, billions of our currency units. We failed many times. We killed some of our own people in failed attempts, and we kept going until we succeeded. New images. Humans in medical laboratories, working with microscopes and complex equipment. When diseases killed millions of us, we did not accept it as natural. We studied those diseases for centuries. We failed and failed and failed, and we kept studying until we understood them, until we could defeat them. More images. Humans planting trees in deserts, building walls to hold back oceans, creating artificial environments on hostile parts of their own planet. When our world's climate began to change, we did not accept that either. We worked for generations to understand the problem. We developed technologies that took centuries to perfect. We argued and fought among ourselves about the best solutions, and we kept working. Turned back to face the assembly. This is what persistence predation looks like when applied to challenges other than hunting. We do not give up. We do not accept defeat. We do not stop working on a problem just because it is difficult or painful or takes a long time. She let the silence stretch for a moment. When your scientists classified humans as weak and harmless, they were looking at our bodies. They measured our speed, our strength, our natural weapons. They concluded that we were prey animals who had somehow survived through luck and tool use. Her voice hardened slightly. They did not measure our persistence. They did not measure our memory. They did not measure our ability to work together toward goals that take generations to achieve. They did not understand that every challenge we face becomes another form of prey, another target for the hunting instinct that has been part of us since before we were fully human. A delegate spoke. You are saying that humans do not only hunt animals, you hunt problems, you hunt challenges. Yes, nodded. And we hunt them the same way we hunted the kudu. We do not expect quick victory. We simply keep following, keep working, keep pushing. And eventually, whatever we are chasing will fall. They made a sound that translated as unease. What happens when humans decide that another species is a problem that needs to be solved? Was silent for a long moment before answering. That has happened before in our history, when groups of humans decided that other groups were enemies to be eliminated rather than people to coexist with. She paused. Those are the darkest parts of our history, the times when our persistence was turned toward destruction rather than creation. She looked around the amphitheater, meeting the eyes of delegate after delegate. We have learned from those times. We have developed ethics and laws and international agreements. We have tried to build systems that prevent us from treating other beings as prey. She paused again. But the instinct is still there. The capability is still there. The patience and the memory and the refusal to quit are still there. Her voice was very quiet now. You asked what happens when humans hunt intelligent beings. The honest answer is that when we do, we are very, very good at it. That is why we try so hard not to. Because we know what we are capable of. We know what happens when we stop seeing others as people and start seeing them as prey. She straightened her shoulders. The good news is that the same traits that make us dangerous also make us valuable allies. Our persistence, our cooperation, our long-term thinking. These can be directed toward building rather than destroying, toward helping rather than hunting. Her smile returned, small and tired. We would prefer to be your partners, your friends, your collaborators in building something greater than any of us could build alone. She paused. But you should know what you are partnering with. You should understand what humans really are. Because pretending we are harmless prey animals benefits no one. It only creates misunderstandings that could become dangerous. They called Earth's apex a joke, until the human played Jungle Surveillance Files. Part 5. The Galactic Council's summit did not continue its normal schedule that day. After Ambassador finished her presentation, High Taxonomist called for an immediate recess. The delegates filed out of the amphitheater in unusual silence, many of them glancing at the lone human as they passed. Remained on the central platform for a moment, watching them go. She felt tired. The presentation had required her to talk about parts of human nature that she usually preferred to keep quiet. The persistence, the hunting instinct, the capacity for both great creation and terrible destruction. But it had been necessary. The galactic community had been treating humans like a curiosity at best and a joke at worst for 40 years. That misunderstanding was becoming dangerous. Better to be feared and respected than to be dismissed and underestimated. She gathered her materials and walked toward the exit. Outside the amphitheater, the station's corridors were filled with aliens moving in small groups, speaking in lowered voices. Their translators rendered fragments of conversation as she passed. Never considered persistence as a hunting strategy. The footage of the tiger retreating was disturbing. They hunted their own megafauna to extinction using sticks and patience. Ignored them and kept walking. 3 hours later, a message reached her quarters. High Taxonomist had convened an emergency classification committee. Earth's status was being reassessed. She was not invited to the meeting, but she received the results 6 hours after that. Earth's designation changed from marginal, Category 3, to apex, Category 1 null. It was a classification so rare that it had only been applied to 2 other planets in the entire known galaxy. Both of those worlds had been placed under permanent quarantine, their surfaces too dangerous for any sentient life to safely visit. Earth would not be quarantined. Humans were already part of the galactic community, had already established trade relationships and diplomatic ties, but the reclassification meant something. It meant that the galactic community would no longer treat humans as harmless primitives who had gotten lucky. The next morning, Ambassador Eth of the requested a meeting. Met him in a private diplomatic chamber. The serpentine alien arranged his coils carefully before speaking, positioning his body in what her briefing materials identified as a posture of respect and caution. Ambassador, I would speak with you. Of course, Ambassador Eth. The footage you showed, the ranger who walked toward the tiger. Eth paused, his scales shifting colors slightly. She was not afraid. Considered the question. She was terrified. Every human in that situation is terrified. The tiger was bigger, faster, and stronger. It could have killed her in seconds. Then why did she walk toward it? Because fear and action are not the same thing, kept her voice gentle. Humans experience fear just like any other species. Our hearts beat faster, our bodies prepare to run, but we also have the ability to override that instinct, to do the thing that frightens us anyway because we know it is the right tactical choice. Eth was quiet for a long moment. The hegemony has 3 disputed territories along your colonial expansion zone. We had planned to press our claims more aggressively in the coming decade. Nodded, she had read the intelligence reports. I am aware. I believe we will be reopening negotiations instead. Eth's scales shifted again, settling into colors that suggested careful thought, with considerably more generous terms. The United Earth government looks forward to productive discussions. Kept her expression neutral, but inside she felt something like satisfaction. This was why she had shown the footage. Not to threaten, but to establish understanding. If they had tried to push their territorial claims aggressively, it would have led to conflict. Now they understood what conflict with humans would actually mean. Eth made a gesture that seemed to indicate the end of the meeting. But before he left, he asked one more question. Ambassador, if we had not changed our approach, if we had continued to pressure your colonial zones, what would have happened? Thought carefully before answering. In the short term, nothing dramatic. Your military is larger than ours. Your technology is more advanced. You would have won early victories. And in the long term, you would have united every human faction against a common enemy. Our corporations would have stopped competing with each other and started collaborating. Our governments would have shared resources and technology. Our scientists would have focused all their efforts on understanding your weaknesses. She paused. And then we would have come for you. Not in a year, not in 10 years, maybe not even in 100 years, but eventually. We would have built our forces, developed new weapons, found your vulnerabilities, and we would not have stopped until the threat was eliminated. Eth's scales went very still, even if it took generations. We once spent 10,000 years developing agriculture. We spent 5,000 years perfecting metalworking. We spent 3 centuries building a global communications network. His voice was calm, stating simple facts. When humans commit to something, time is not an obstacle. It is just another resource to be used. The ambassador left without another word. Over the following weeks, noticed changes in how other species treated human delegates. The casual dismissiveness was gone. The jokes about soft skins and prey animals had stopped. Instead, there was a new wariness, a new respect. It was not friendship, not yet, but it was the beginning of understanding. One afternoon, a young diplomat approached her in the observation lounge. They were a peaceful species, known for their scientific achievements rather than their military power. This one was barely out of their diplomatic academy, their bioluminescent patches flickering with nervous curiosity. Ambassador, I have a question if you will permit it. Of course. The traits you described, the persistence, the fear conditioning, the pack coordination. The lights pulsed uncertainly. These developed on your world over millions of years, but your species has only been spacefaring for 3 centuries. What happens when you apply those same traits to interstellar expansion? Looked out the observation window at the star-scattered void beyond. Somewhere out there, human colony ships were pushing into unclaimed space. They carried settlers who would work 18-hour days for decades to terraform hostile worlds. Scientists were conducting research programs designed to span generations. Engineers were building megastructures that would not be completed until centuries after their own deaths. Patient, persistent, absolutely refusing to quit. I suppose the galaxy will find out, she said quietly. The diplomat stood beside her for a moment, watching the stars. Is that meant to be reassuring or frightening? Smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. That depends on whether you are standing with us or against us. And if we simply wish to observe, then you will see something interesting. Turn to face the young diplomat directly. Humans are not conquerors by nature. We do not need to dominate everyone we meet, but we do need to grow, to explore, to build. to solve problems that seem impossible. She gestured toward the window. There are billions of stars out there, countless worlds, resources beyond imagining, mysteries that will take thousands of years to understand. Her voice grew thoughtful. For a species like mine, that is not a threat. It is an invitation, an endless series of challenges to chase, prey that will take forever to catch. They considered this. So humans will keep expanding, keep exploring, keep pushing forward. Yes, and you will never stop. Ambassador of United Earth looked out at the infinite expanse of the galaxy. Somewhere out there, her species was already running, already tracking, already pursuing goals that would take generations to achieve. She thought about the kudu, running and running and running, never understanding why the creatures behind it refused to give up. She thought about the tiger, backing away from a human half its size, moved by instincts born from 100,000 years of learned fear. She thought about her own ancestors, patient and persistent, following prey across deserts and mountains and oceans, never stopping, never quitting, never accepting that something could not be done. No, she said finally, we will never stop. The stars waited, cold and distant. The humans were coming, and they had all the time in the universe.